All right, my what the fuck series. Um, what the fuck is an immersionist gamer? What is immersion? What the hell is it? Well, this is my description of what I feel immersion is. Um, just as before, my motivation for doing this was people were asking, "What is a power gamer?" So my answer to that is, well, maybe I don't know, but what are all the other descriptors? And neither positive nor negative. I'm just saying this is to me what I feel it is. Please chime in as usual. Guys. Okay, what's immersion? Well, to me, immersion and playing immersively is simply the accepting the quote unquote reality of the setting, whether it's sci-fi, whether it's Old West, Renaissance, medieval, a dreamscape. You're traveling through the planes. You're going to different dimensions. You're playing in the world of ants. Doesn't matter. It's accepting the reality of the setting, and the players and the game master act and react accordingly to the reality of the setting, despite the rules. Now, I ended it with despite the rules because sometimes what people call like a simulationist or a gamist will base their actions and reactions on what do the rules allow me to do or not do. And an immersionist is action and reaction first, rules second. Okay? So instead of looking, say, at a character sheet or looking into a book and saying, the bad guys are shooting at me from a speeding car, do I have the ability to jump on the roof of the car and hold on for dear life? The immersionist just goes, what? The bad guys kidnapped the witness. I'm going to jump on the roof of the car and hope to stop them, not even thinking about it, just reacting, doing a bad boy scene. They're going to, an immersionist wants to act or react in the scene, and the rules be damned. We'll figure out, the game master and player will very quickly figure out a very simple, very direct method of whether this action will succeed or not. And so therefore, immersionists are not so much concerned with a game that has details of every single rule, but more or less concerned with, are there a block of very simple rules that can cover a multitude of actions? And then we'll just use those. So rules light systems, Fate and I believe Savage Worlds and many others. I'm not really going to go into them. Or like, well, I don't know what the current rule is for being in a vacuum or suffocating or being choked underwater, but we will very quickly come up with a rule for it because that's what the hell you wanted to do, right? So putting a rope across a hallway to trip a rampaging ogre, is there a specific rule for it? Maybe somewhere, but we're just going to go ahead and go with it anyway, instead of saying, well, because there's no rule for it, the only action I'm going to take is something that has a rule for it in the game. So an immersionist will do things like, I'm going to grab the bad guy and pull him down into the water and choke him out. I'm going to jump on the hood of the car. I'm going to backflip off the balcony and land, on my horse and ride away. I'm going to, engage in those things. And now, of course, in immersionist, I use the words act and react. And so, no matter what the rules say, so for example, player character walks down street, gets grabbed by the back of their lapel or their coat, and a knife is held to their throat, the immersionists, based on their character, will react to the act of a blade being held to their throat, no matter their level, no matter what's going on. Now, some will say, well, for example, using Dungeons & Dragons, well, my character is a 5th level fighter, and I've got 58 hit points. There's no way a D4 dagger will go through my throat. And the reality of the situation will also include the skill level and the experiences that character is going through. So me as a game master, if I know that player character can take this dude out barehanded, some lowly old 0 level thug is trying to rob this, 5th level fighter, I'll say to the player, you've been grabbed, knife is held to your throat, you feel the bad, horrid breath in your ear as the person says, hand over the purse, but and I'll say, you've been in these situations before, you can take this person out barehanded probably. Because that player character would know whether they would have those skills available to them or not, right? The same would be if they're held and pulled into an alley by an experienced assassin. I would explain to that high-level character, the person that grabs you has a tight hold on you, the knife is held directly against your carotid artery, you believe what they say, that if you make a false move, they will cut your throat and let you bleed and die where you stand. I will let that player give them that knowledge because they have that experience. That being said, that player will act or react based on the reality of the situation. A dragon breathing fire is a scary thing. Has nothing to do with, well, how much damage does the fire do? What's my saving throw? It's the reality of it. It is the acceptance of that reality as well. So the dice and rules be damned, my character is going to run for it. Or my character is brave, I'm going to jump into the fray. Even though on the character sheet you're like, there's no way I'm going to survive getting breathed on by a dragon, the player, the character within that game world is going to say, hey, these innocent people, this dragon's breathing fire down the street. After these innocent people, I'm going to run because I'm a paladin and I'm going to stand in front of the fire and hope to save the small child's life or something like that. Immersionists are also, deep immersionists also are into not just the reality and acting and reacting to what's going on, but the reality of their own emotions and how they would feel when they see these things. So, sure, it may be more efficient to just torture somebody. The reality of the situation may be, my player character doesn't like torture, has never tortured anybody before, and it doesn't make sense for them to even attempt it because they would never know whether it will work or not. So, it's also the fact of knowing and understanding and admitting to the strengths and weaknesses of the character beyond the rules. Does my character know how to swim? No. Has my character been into the desert before? No. Is my character socially adept? Yeah, he's a noble. Yeah, of course. Does my character know how to survive in the mountains? Well, heck yeah, he's from the mountains. It may not be on the character sheet, but as long as it belongs to their background and makes immersive sense, it makes sense for the character concept, they will play their character as such. Now, some may say, well, isn't that a way to get past the rules? So, for example, my character is a noble, but there's nothing on my character sheet that gives me noble skills. Well, there are many games that get around that. For example, 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons has backgrounds, and you can pick the background of noble. And it gives you narrative permission to have connections and experience and skills being and fitting into the environment of being a noble. Which is, you start thinking, well, narrative permission sounds like Fate. Well, that's exactly what Fate is based on. If you play a game and you say, well, my character is a noble in exile, then you are a noble and you have been exiled. That is the truth of the matter. So, some games do not have that. So, let's take, for example, GURPS. GURPS may expect you to buy the appropriate advantages and disadvantages to describe your character as a noble. If you do not take an etiquette or diplomacy skill, you don't have that skill. Is it possible to be a noble and not have those skills? Sure. But you may have that internal information. And so therefore, immersion and immersionist gaming to me is playing in the environment and acting and reacting to what that situation would be. It is the classic movie, beginning in a world where samurai still fight with swords in a modern day. It is accepting of that. Well, okay, well, there's samurai with swords fighting in a modern day, and I'm going to act and react to what's going on. Unfortunately, the bad rap like narrative and immersionist gaming gets is because since the goal is to be more realistic to the environment, oftentimes the die rolling ends up not shortcutting or even not existing because it's not about fitting into the rules of the game or the game system. It's about playing the character, the rules be damned. And it's not about just ignoring them and saying they don't exist. It's about this can be adjudicated between all of us playing at the table. We only need the rules to support random action, to support the chance of success or failure, to support a question we may have. Bad guys driving away in a stolen limousine or a taxi, and the player character jumping on the hood of the car or on the roof to go after them is a descriptor. And in immersionist type gaming, in the game there are probably no rules for jumping onto a speeding car unless it specifically is that type of game. But we can always find a rule. Okay, what is your dexterity stat, balance stat, acrobatics stat? What is your strength stat to hold on for dear life or something like that? We're going to use that stat because we don't have another one. I'm going to add a, +2 modifier because they had to stop and get into the taxi and just speed off, so you had opportunity to jump on. Or I'm going to give you a -2 because there's really no handholds on the roof of this car. So you're going to have to hold on with your fingertips and get as the driver tries to sway you side to side and knock you off or something like that, right? So, sure, can we adjudicate some rules? Yes. And so immersionists are far more willing, almost as a requirement, that the game master is going to have to adjudicate a lot of rules to encompass all of the myriad effects, because the immersionist style gamer will not stay within the rules of the game. They are going to stay within the rules of the reality in the setting in which they live. So immersionist gaming, action and reacting according to the reality of the world, including combat, including the environment, and including social status. So anyway, DBJ, as always, create, don't destroy. I went on a little bit long, I think, but that's all right. And I'm out.